We know all comic book fans have a long wish list of things we'd like to see incorporated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now that it's nearly time for Phase 4, we can start looking to the future instead of ruminating about the decimation like we've been doing for longer than we'd like to admit. Marvel Studios likes to keep things quiet until the moment is just right, but we do have some good ideas about what to expect during the upcoming Phase 4. It felt like we waited forever to see Avengers Endgame, and that's not just because Avengers Infinity War left us with so many unanswered questions. This movie was the conclusion of storylines that got started all the way back in 2008 with movies like Iron Man. We said goodbye to some much-beloved heroes and welcomed some new ones to the roster. After waiting years for it to come out, paying a premium for those ridiculous souvenir soda cups and sitting through 3 hours of footage, a task made all the more difficult due to the aforementioned soda, we finally had some answers. And then, of course, we immediately want to know what comes next. Hey, in our defense, we didn't even have a single post-credit scene to distract us. We were left staring at the black movie screen. And to be perfectly honest, we think it stared back into our souls a little bit. As we looked into the dark cinematic void, we asked ourselves, what about Phase 4? We're sure you know the Marvel movies break down into different phases, and while Endgame isn't the final movie in Phase 3, we'll get into that in a second, it brought huge changes with it that will be felt in Phase 4 and beyond. The first phase started with Iron Man in 2008, and is also made up of the Incredible Hulk, which everyone forgets exists, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America the First Avenger, and the Avengers. Phase 2 began in 2013 with Iron Man 3 and continued with Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, and finally, Ant-Man. Phase 3 began with Captain America Civil War in 2016 and will end with Spider-Man Far From Home coming out in just a few months' time. This phase also contains Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and of course, Avengers Endgame. Whew, that was extensive. Now go ahead and repeat that all back to us. Just kidding, let's keep looking forward. It was recently said by Kevin Feige himself that Spider-Man Far From Home, the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, will actually be a part of Phase 3 and not Phase 4. But it comes out just months after Avengers Endgame, so you know what? We felt like including it in this video anyway. Things have changed, and we now know that it takes place shortly after the events of Endgame. But this might not be the last time we see our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, since we also expect to see him in Phase 4. Tom Holland is known to be a bit of a walking spoiler factory, and he may have dropped a huge hint about the future of Spider-Man in the MCU. During an interview, he talked about how Peter Parker is growing up and learning how to be the best hero he can be. He said it's going to be an exciting couple of movies, but at the time, we only knew about one movie after Homecoming, which was Far From Home. And Holland doubled down, saying there will be a Spider-Man 2 and 3, before adding, sorry Marvel. Well, at least he said sorry. Plus, who could stay mad at Spider-Man? So, while we'll be getting another Spider-Man movie in Phase 3, it looks like we'll be getting at least one more Spider-Man movie in Phase 4. In addition to Spider-Man, there are a few other Marvel franchises we'll be getting sequels to in Phase 4. One of those is for the wildly successful movie Black Panther. Although Marvel Studios kept us waiting before confirming a sequel, we were sure it was coming, and we finally got an assurance that it's a work in progress. Director Ryan Coogler is not only heading up the project, but he admits to feeling the pressure both in terms of time and quality. Hopefully, this bodes well for the finished product, but it certainly has a lot to live up to. Supposedly, Black Panther 2 will start shooting in late 2019 or 2020, meaning it could very likely end up in Phase 4. We know it's going to have to be perfect before they release it, but the timeline still looks promising. Another popular movie whose sequel got the green light recently is Doctor Strange. Originally, the film was supposed to begin filming in 2018, but it seems like that's been pushed back a bit. Still, the movie seems like a sure thing, and many estimate it'll be released at some point in 2020. Doctor Strange 2 will likely involve Stephen Strange going head-to-head with Karl Mordo, who went from friend to enemy in the first movie. Marvel has been known to skimp on their villain backstories, so we have high hopes that they're building Mordo up into something compelling. In the first movie, Doctor Strange matched wits with the dreaded Dormammu, but there was actually another villain in line for the position of antagonist. Nightmare is an amazingly powerful and entertaining villain from the comic books, and originally he was going to be the bad guy in Doctor Strange. However, there was a lot of lore to pack into the movie, and Marvel decided it was too much to both explain the entirety of the mystic arts, time travel, Doctor Strange as a person, and Nightmare. Director Scott Derrickson is a huge fan of Nightmare, and we wouldn't be at all surprised to see him show up in the sequel to Doctor Strange. In addition to these sequels, we believe we may finally get to see a highly anticipated third movie in a popular Marvel franchise during Phase 4. Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2 were both directed by James Gunn, and the third movie was set to be released sometime in 2020, but that got seriously pushed back when Gunn was fired due to some controversial tweets he had made a decade prior. However, bringing in a new director isn't as easy as it might seem. Gunn had the loyalty of the cast and crew, and had worked on creating the script for the film. Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi said he personally wouldn't touch the project because it was the work of another director and it seemed like everyone else felt the same. Finally, Marvel Studios hired Gunn back, but now they have to wait until he's done with his other scheduled obligations, including Suicide Squad 2. But since a lot of the groundwork has been laid out for the movie and it's back on track, it doesn't seem too crazy to suggest it might roll out in time for Phase 4. Especially considering the conclusion of Endgame, we aren't the only ones eager to see what our favorite Guardians of the Galaxy are up to. We're also expecting the highly anticipated standalone Black Widow movie during Phase 4. This is a project which has been promised and canceled before, but it looks like it's finally happening. Fans have been clamoring for this movie since the character was first introduced in the MCU, and it's well past time she had her own film. Of course, we're looking forward to seeing more of our old favorites in Marvel's Phase 4, but we also expect to see some exciting new additions to the MCU. Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige has been teasing us about a movie based on the Eternals since all the way back in April 2018. Of course, as always, he was as vague as could be, stating that it's one of many things that we are actively beginning to have creative discussions about. Well, that certainly sounds conclusive to us. Director Chloe Zhao has been linked to the project, as is famous actress Angelina Jolie. It's been rumored that it'll be filmed around the same time as the Black Widow movie, and should be released around the same time as well. The Eternals are ultra-powerful beings on par with Ego, who we met in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It'll be interesting to see if these characters have existed in the MCU all this time. If you've been keeping up with Marvel movies, and we know you have, then you've probably noticed that it seems like it may be time for a new generation of superheroes. Peter Parker is supposed to be a high school student, and we've seen even younger characters drop some seemingly big hints about the future of the MCU. Despite Ant-Man and the Wasp, Scott's daughter Cassie talks about how she wishes she could be a superhero and fight crime next to her dad. And after a convenient time jump during Avengers Endgame, she's now a teenager played by Emma Fuhrmann. In the comic books, Cassie does become a superhero going by the names Stature and Stinger at various points. She's also a member of a superhero team known as the Young Avengers. And fans believe we've seen another up-and-coming hero, Hawkeye. No, not that Hawkeye. We've seen Clint Barton teaching his daughter Layla how to fire a bow and arrow, and it looks like she's gotten pretty darn good at it. In the comic books, Clint becomes known as Ronin, wielding a sword and taking on a darker outlook on life, just like we saw in Endgame. The comic version of the new female Hawkeye is named Kate Bishop, but it certainly seems like Marvel Studios is setting Layla up to become this hero instead. And in Captain Marvel, we were introduced to the adorable and precocious Monica Rambeau, who's clearly inspired by the heroics of Carol Danvers. In the comic books, Monica grows up to become a hero known first as Captain Marvel, but later taking on other names like Photon, Pulsar, and Spectrum. Another big hint based on current Marvel movie trends seems to be that Earth is getting played out. Instead, our heroes are taking to the skies and exploring other universes, which could also use saving. Captain Marvel says several times during Endgame that there are other planets out there who need help. So we wouldn't be surprised to see some new heroes with access to space travel in Phase 4. One name that frequently comes up is a hero known as Nova. When the Nova Corps is wiped out, Roman Day survives long enough to impart his powers onto a high school student named Richard Rider. Making a movie about Nova would both give us another younger character and one capable of interstellar travel. During Infinity War, Thanos said he had totally wiped out the Nova Corps, which we thought was a pretty major thing to happen off screen. It could be possible that he wasn't as thorough as he thought. If Captain Marvel is right about all the trouble in the universe, it seems like the cosmos could use all the help they can get. No offense to the Guardians of the Galaxy or Captain Marvel herself, but the universe is a pretty big place. It seems like Phase 4 is going to provide us with some highly anticipated heroes, as well as some new heroes for us all to get excited about. What are your predictions for the fourth phase of Marvel movies? Tell us what you realistically expect to see, and what you'd most like to see in the comments section below. Before you go, make sure to click on that subscribe button for the latest videos from us here at CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.